Ian Healy, occupation artist, age 70. Love and shadows. For Ian, love can only flourish in silence and stillness. It's too fragile to be dragged into the daylight in case it turns to dust. Rather, it's something to be nurtured in secret, safest in those corners of their apartment where the air thickens and the shadows congregate. Consequently, he hasn't left here in years. And these days, she barely ventures out either. Just occasional visits to the doctor and a couple of days R&R a year without him at her sister's cottage in Lyme Regis. Most of their shopping is done online. Bills are paid in the same way. Money transferred from one account to another. Smart meters have been installed so that they don't need to be read. No one comes. Friends and holidays are a dim memory. The only visitor he tolerates is his agent, who turns up a couple of times a year to collect any completed canvases. To begin with, it was a precarious living, but now his work sells for ridiculous sums and there's plenty in the bank. Which is nice to know, but certainly isn't going to change anything. Ian only has one subject, his wife Magda. He paints her again and again, the critics say obsessively, as if he could care less. He rarely paints her full on. She's generally caught in the act of turning away, distracted. Either she's painted full length, standing by the window looking out over an unremarkable corner of the street, washed by the light of outdoors. Or he moves in much closer. His focus becomes more intimate. The nape of her neck, where the dark hair forms wisps and walls. Her lower back at the point at which her skirt cinches around her waist. Her arms in the light of a lamp, her silver bangles flashing unreadable signals. Everything he has ever painted, or will paint in the future, has just one purpose: to express his love for Magda. A love that is reflected in, is indistinguishable from, his love for this place. And maybe in the end, they are the same thing. The walls and ceilings are the colour of a dove's feathers. The cornices, dado rails and window frames picked out in white. Thin white drapes at the tall windows. Bare bleached floors. The few objects to which he has given house room serve as grave goods to accompany them in their entombment. A plain oak table, darkened by 300 years of polishing. A Chinese ginger jar decorated with pheasants and cherry blossom. A large pale watercolour of the mysterious forested landscape in a plain dark frame. An elm chair with a harp-shaped back and elaborate turned legs. Like objects encountered in a dream, these things seem to have a significance beyond themselves, although it's not clear what that significance might be. Together they constitute the inventory of his desire, a handful of possessions that mark the furthest points of his world. And he's happy with that. After all, beyond these four walls there be dragons. But what of Magda? Against this restrained and muted background, her beads and bangles, her brilliant scarves and shimmering multicoloured silk dresses, her turbans and glittering pendant earrings are radiant. Startling, explosive. So startling, in fact, that fans of his pictures can't believe that they don't mean anything. Is this just the way she normally dresses, they wonder? Or is all this extravagant finery a form of sedition? Many are inclined to think that it must represent her unspoken rejection of the placid, sombre minimalism in which her husband has trapped her, preserved her like a mosquito in amber. Surely she isn't as passive as her husband's paintings suggest, hasn't settled for this simulacrum of a life. When he paints her turning towards the window, they are tempted to speculate about whether she's thinking about the man behind her, or dreaming of freedom, longing to flee into the streets, to feel the rain on her face. Ian knows that people wonder what Magda makes of all this attention, this fetishization, this sequestration. Knows that they wonder whether she colludes in it or finds it stifling. But from his perspective, none of this really matters. Let them think what they like. It is obvious to him that these are the wrong questions to be asking, that it's not a matter of what she is thinking or feeling, but of what he is thinking and feeling. After all, these paintings are about him, not about her. About love and shadows, love and secrets, love and selfishness. But of course, it wasn't always like this. When they were first married, Ian relished the attention Magda got wherever they went, was proud and happy to share her with the world, loved her ability to turn heads in restaurants and in the street, loved her flamboyance and confidence. It took years for him to realise that his own lack of success as a painter was in some inexplicable way a direct consequence of her splendour, that she overshadowed him, diminished him. Critics were polite about his work at the time, large abstract canvases in purple and orange and lime green, but saw them for what they were, could see that he was trying too hard. What they couldn't know was that every time he put brush to canvas he was attempting to move out of Magda's shadow, which was why, in the end, he had to abandon abstraction, why he ultimately embraced realism. By putting Magda at the heart of every picture he paints, he has finally asserted his independence of her. This way he gets to keep her to himself while showing her to the world entirely on his terms. Sure, there's been some collateral damage. As his star has risen, hers has fallen. But that's a price he's willing to pay. Without Magda, he would have nothing to paint. And without his paintings of Magda, there'd be no Ian. But equally, without Ian's paintings, no Magda. And no way for them to live.